back to Casually Crafted. My name is Ashley, and this is the first video for the Deck the Halls collaboration that I kind of invited myself into. So this collab was started by Terry from the Yarn Joy podcast, Ella from No Catchy Name, and Kim the Crafty Nomad. And as I was watching Terry's video, I saw hers first. About this, I thought it sounded really fun. I think Kim and Terry are both working out of a Christmas ornament amigurumi book, which is actually, I've had it on my Amazon wish list for a while, but I have not purchased that. But I do have a million ornament patterns saved on like my Pinterest and things like that. So, and I've always been wanting to do them, and then I just never do. So I thought this would be a good chance to work on some of those before Christmas rolls around and we get too busy. And so I emailed Terry and asked her if she'd be okay with me joining, and she was kind enough to say yes. So what I've decided to do is break up each week into themes. So this first week I'm doing trees, so like Christmas tree ornaments basically. And so other weeks will be different themes, and some might have more or less depending on what I could find and what I had time for. I am recording this one a little bit early because I will be traveling the first on and off during the first few weeks of July. So I was going to say something else. Oh, I will not be doing any snowflakes. So I know there's a million snowflake patterns out there because I did about half of them, like half the million last year. And I have some videos about the ones that I've made. And I even tried different ways of stiffening them and found what worked best for me. And I have a whole bunch of sets left over from making those last year. So I will not be making any snowflakes this year. And that's why I didn't get to any of the other ones last year, because I went down a snowflake rabbit hole. So now that that's all out of the way, I will show you. I did go a little bit crazy on this week, also this tree theme. For some reason, I have an obsession a little bit with Christmas trees in my Christmas decorations. It's like everything is either nativities or trees. I don't know why. But and snowflakes. So I did try 10 different patterns for Christmas tree ornaments. So I will show you. I will say I don't know the names to all of these because I couldn't keep them straight. I do have like some notes here about what I liked about each one and what hook and yarn I used for each one. But some of these were in other languages and I don't know how to pronounce those, and like some of them, like the name doesn't really help you know what it is anyway. It just says Christmas tree ornament. So I will just show you what I have and we will go from there. So I was gonna do this in order that I made them, and then I don't remember anymore. So this first one was like half in another language and half in English. So I'm just gonna call this the Bobble Bobble tree, and it's a little bit big. And I didn't add hangy strings on some of these. This one I used. I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby, and the color is mid green. So let me see. The only changes I made on this one, so it might need some blocking, and it's a little big, so I don't know if a smaller yarn would be better for this pattern. You're only supposed to do 4 single crochets across the bottom for the first row of the trunk, and I chose to do 5 because I felt like it wouldn't be exactly in the middle of the tree. And then for the second row I did double crochets because I wanted it a little bit taller instead of I think they just did 2 rows of single crochet. Yeah, it was pretty simple pattern. Basically just doing bobble stitches on one side and single crochets when you turn and go back the other way, and you're increasing on the single crochet rows. So that one was pretty easy. but I would need a smaller yarn, I think, because that's a little bit big for what I would like on an ornament on a tree. Um, so these next ones, they're one of the last ones I made, but that's fine because it's in this order. I used Red Heart Super Saver color Light Sage, and see. So this one is the very last one I made, and I actually didn't finish it because it's very big. And so this one you're supposed to make 2 of this shape and then stuff it. So I will probably make the second half of this and just set it on a shelf for another decoration. But I need it to be done. So I used an F hook for this one. And there were some parts that were a little confusing. There might have been some typos, or it could have just been me. I'm not really sure. But I think I figured it out. So I will finish this and make it into a decoration. But yeah. So I forgot a few things about this pattern that I was going to tell you. It was honestly kind of confusing at first because the person who wrote the pattern uses the abbreviation for chain when she actually means stitch. So like after the first row when it says do, you know, 1 double crochet in the next 5 chains, you're like, what chains? They're just stitches. So once that was figured out, that was a little better. And then the other thing she says is, or he, I don't know, is for the points, you do 5 double crochets in each point, and you do 2 on each end to increase. And they word it as a 2 double crochet 2 together or double crochet 5 together, which you would normally do half the first double crochet and then like join them all together into 1 stitch, but they actually literally mean 5 double crochets in 1 stitch or 2 double crochets in 1 stitch. So that was a little weird because I'd never seen a pattern word it like that. But once I figured that out, it was a lot easier. Okay, so this next one, I first found it, I think, on YouTube, and then I ended up looking in the description box and just going to her pattern because the YouTube only showed how to do, so here it is. It only showed how to do this first one. Basically, they're all the same as far as increases go. You're just adding, I think, 2 stitches for each row. Sorry. You're basically adding 2 stitches for each row as you go down, and then this one's a little bit bigger, this one's a little bit bigger. And then these little rufflies are like 3 single crochets in one, and then slip stitch in the next, and then all the way around. So the picture of these, they look more, not as pointy, I guess. I don't know how to word it, but mine came out very tall and pointy, and I feel like the other ones were more rounded, more bell-shaped in their picture. So I don't know if that was just me or what. But this is that same Red Heart yarn, and I used an E-hook because that's what the pattern called for. So it's pretty tight and small because of that. Let's see, the next, I decided to do a few with crochet thread. Unfortunately, I didn't have any plain green. I mean, I did. I had it in like the size 10, but that was skinnier than I wanted to work with right now. So I don't know what brand this is or where I got it, but I have a collection of crochet thread. That is not, there we go, kind of. So it's basically just shades of green, and I'm pretty sure it's a size 3, so a little bit thicker. This first one, I really like how it turned out. I still think it would have been better with a solid color probably. But so this one, I used a C hook. I don't know what the millimeters of that is, but that's my like go-to hook for when I work with this size thread. And this is a video in another language. I'm assuming it's Russian or something similar to that. But she does go slow enough, and if you put on the English subtitles, she goes slow enough and you can see exactly what she's doing. So, and it's, I think, just 3 rounds. So, pretty quick and easy. It's slow because she goes slow, but if I were to make more, I'd probably write out the pattern just so I wouldn't have to keep going back each time and watching it. And then the other one I use that same thread for is this one, and this one kicked my butt a little bit. It wasn't like complicated necessarily, but I will say there are some typos. Like I'm like 99% sure there were some typos. Um, and part of it was I did something wrong and it wasn't turning out. And then so by the time I went around the next row, like I knew it wasn't working, so I went back. And the only way I figured out what I went wrong was they had a chart, and I don't really read the charts, but I was able to look at where I was because she didn't have like individual pictures of each step. She just had the picture of the finished project and then the charts and then just the written pattern. So I was looking at the chart, I was able to figure out where I went wrong, and then that's when I realized that there technically was a typo. Um, when you go back into these, there's like in each of these corners, you have like a 5 double crochet picot, and you're supposed to chain 4 and then single crochet back into those. Like that round, you're chaining 4 and single crocheting basically all the way around. But in her repeat section, you only did that once, and then you just repeated all the way around, and so it didn't work out. You were supposed to have 2 single crochets in each of these corners, and the way she had worded it, it didn't work that way. So, and so where I was coming along to do this chain part, it was like all the way over here, and it was all messed up. So I finally figured it out. It probably could use some blocking because it is a little wonky. But other than that, yep, I also used the C hook for that one. So that's all for that one. All right, these next 2 I used Karen Simply Soft and the color Dark Sage. So the first one is this granny Christmas tree, and you kind of make it in the round. And I used a 4mm hook for these ones. And I don't really like how this one turned out and I didn't finish it. I didn't do the trunk because I don't like this weird top piece. I feel like it either needs to have more like jaggedies or just all be like a triangle. It could have been me that didn't understand the pattern. Like that happens sometimes. But looking at the picture, I think I did it right. I just don't really like how that looks on the top, so I probably won't make that exact pattern again. And then this other one, they used these to make a garland with, and it's basically just single crochets in the back loop, and you do some increases in the middle. My biggest issue with this one, I didn't really have an issue with the actual pattern, but the picture makes it look like it's more pointed in the middle and like, I don't know, more pointy. And mine's more rounded. Like it's not as obvious that there should be like a point here. So I don't know if that's me or the yarn or what made the difference in that. Yep, I think that was it. So I also used a 4mm hook with this one. And I don't think I changed anything about the trunk or anything. So that's that one. Got a few more left. Okay, so these next 2 are made with Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek. And I don't remember the color. Color is Viridescent. So this one is you make each of these pieces with corner to corner. So I will tell you right now, I will probably not make this one again because I don't like to make a million pieces. Um, so technically, I didn't even finish this one the way they said because so you make 4 individual pieces of quarter to corners. You're actually supposed to make 8 because they want it to be double sided to cover this back and hide all your ends. And I did make all those pieces, and then when I was putting them together, it's like I'm not doing that. That's and then you have to edge all of each individual piece in white, and then make the trunk, which I didn't do the same as their pattern, and then put it all together. And I was like, yeah, that's not me. That's not happening. So I basically just tied and cut all the ends on the back, and the trunk you're supposed to use like a single crochet thermal stitch, and I've done that like once, so I didn't feel like going back and relearning how to do that stitch. I just did a few rows of like half double crochet and then stitched it on the back. I also found a YouTube tutorial for basically the same exact tree. They just used tinier yarn. And I was watching it, and they pretty much did the same thing, but they glued all theirs together instead of sewing it together. And I think they did the trunk different. Um, and because they used smaller yarn, they actually had an extra. They had one that had 6 little things, so they had an extra piece. Yeah, I mean it's cute, but that's way too much work for one little thing for me personally, so I will not be making that one again. This next one is a bobble tree with with a cinnamon stick trunk. Now, my issue with my cinnamon stick is I think it needs to be a little longer, but that's all I had. So, and I also think I glued part of the tree to the stick on the inside. There we go. Same yarn for that one. I used a 4mm hook, and it was pretty simple. When I went to put the bead on, it like came through the hole, so that's glued. Like the knot's kind of glued in there also. My only issue with bobble stitch things is that sometimes the bobbles get pushed in and they don't stay out, so that's kind of obnoxious. But yep, that's that one. Okay, last pattern, but I made 2 of them. So this one, they call it like the flat Christmas tree, something or other, but it's made with the bean stitch, and the bean stitch is becoming one of my favorites. The moss stitch is technically my favorite, but the bean stitch is getting close to that. So this one, I used 2 different yarns. So here's this first one. And this one I don't have the ball band anymore, but I'm pretty sure it's called Soho Noel from either Hirschner's or Mary Maxim. And I made some snowflakes out of this last year. This is the color Sugar Cookie, and it's like a light cream color, but it has gold and silver shinies in it, which you probably can't see very well. But what's interesting though is that it's kind of chain spun, but it still goes thin, like thick to thin and back and forth. So it's interesting to work with. Like the snowflakes I made were a little weird. And you can even see that in the bean stitches. Like some are really thick and some are a lot skinnier just because of the way the yarn is. And then they have you use puff stitches here at the bottom for the trunk. And I liked that pattern a lot, so I made a second one, and this is with yarn bead cotton decay in the color almond. And here it is. So I don't think I had any issues with these ones. I used a 4mm hook for both of those. My only issue is I don't really love the trunk, the puff stitch on the trunk. I'd probably just do some single crochets or double crochets across the bottom. I feel like there's enough texture and interest in the tree part that I don't think you need to go crazy with the trunk. So if I had to pick a favorite, these ones would be mine because they're fast and they're cute. And they're not complicated. And they don't take a lot of yarn. So these ones will probably be like my go-to to make more of. My other favorite was probably this one. And then I liked these two a little bit too. Like they're more 3D-ish as ornaments. Um, this one, the bean stitch one, they had pictured on presents, so as like present toppers. So that would be good for that, or ornaments. So yeah. So I think that is everything for this first video. Hopefully that wasn't too long and boring for you. And I apologize for my weird background. I forgot to say this at the beginning. My craft room is also slash playroom, and it's a disaster. And we're working on getting this guest room up and running for like people to actually stay in. So I just put this bed together and I don't have sheets on it or anything, but I figured I would sit in here in this empty room and well, it's not really empty, there's junk over there too, but I would sit here in this empty background and show you all the tree ornaments that I've made the past few days. So stay tuned for next week. I believe I'm going to be doing candy canes slash gingerbread or anything like edible-ish, because I don't think I have enough just candy cane patterns that I actually really like to try, or that I haven't tried before, because I've tried some before. Yeah, so stay tuned for that, and I will talk to you next time. Bye, guys.